The Outback Way has become a symbol of resilience, connection and progress, weaving together the diverse landscapes and communities of Australia's heartland. In celebration of the 25-year journey of advocacy and lobbying to the funding announcement to complete the seal, the Outback Highway Development Council is proud to present From Bull Dust to Bitumen, 25 Years of the Outback Way, a book that captures the spirit, history and future vision of this transformative project. Order your copy and be part of the journey that continues to shape Australia's outback, its people and the nation. Head over to our website and order yours today at www.outbackway.org.au. Welcome to the Outback Way Podcast. Buckle up as we take you on Australia's longest shortcut through the heart of the continent down under. The Outback Way is a 2,700 kilometre road trip stretching from Laverton in Western Australia to Winton in Queensland. You can travel from west to east or east to west. Whether tackling the full route or exploring it in sections, this journey offers breathtaking landscapes, iconic sites like Uluru and the Age of Dinosaurs, and even the world's longest geocache treasure hunt.
The Warburton women are working on a little culture trail at the moment. We've just got some funding and we're working on that at the moment so that people can pull off to 3 different places and learn about the Dreamtime story and have a look around. And I think anywhere you see a stand of trees, there's an absolutely amazing stand of she oaks between One Arm Community and Warracoona. It's like a forest of she oaks. And I love pulling up there, especially when it's windy, because then all you can hear is this shh noise that the she oaks made. And it's literally a forest of she oaks. And of course, when you get closer to Warracoona, you get the beautiful range, the ranges, and just pulling off and looking at the beautiful colours of the ranges and appreciating this range just pops out of the desert, you know. It's just phenomenal. It's like seeing Uluru. It astounds you how there's great big rocks in the middle of the desert. Those Warracoona ranges are a bit like that. So they're probably 2 of my favourite places.
Some of Sue Hanson's favourite places to visit along the Great Central Road, the part of the Outback Way that runs for over 1,100 kilometres between Laverton in Western Australia and Yulara in the Northern Territory. Sue Hanson is CEO and Chief Linguist at the Goldfields Aboriginal Language Centre based in Kalgoorlie. She believes language is the key to cultural identity, and loss of language leads to a loss of cultural identity, a problem for many of the stolen generation.
The Goldfields Aboriginal Language Centre covers the whole Goldfields region, which is just short of 1 million square kilometres, to make sure that the First Nations languages of the region are resourced, preserved and go into the future. So that includes undertaking recordings of the languages, then undertaking linguistic analysis on those languages in order to create preservation resources like a lexical database, dictionaries, right grammars. But more importantly, once a language is understood and studied a bit, is then to create resources for speakers to use their language, enjoy it, pass it on to the next generation and keep them vibrant and alive. So that's our main responsibility. But in order to do that, we need to provide opportunities for languages to be used, to be enjoyed, to be celebrated, and that will take them into the future. So we do a lot of activities that we call language economies, creating opportunities for languages to be used and celebrated, enjoyed. And the Great Central Highway has a huge number of opportunities to celebrate and enjoy the languages that many languages travel along that road.
So what sort of opportunities are we talking about?
Well, the opportunity, certainly tourism and cultural tourism is a really big opportunity. Many Australians and visitors to Australia are really seeking a genuine engagement with First Nations peoples and languages, and they want to do so in a really respectful way, not only to learn about First Nations people, but to show that they're friends and supporters and to help people with their lives going forward. The road in the West Australian side passes through, I think it's 8 First Nations countries. And so there's opportunities for each of those First Nations to engage with wider society and allow people into their land and into their culture and their language. and that it brings economic advantage to language.
And how many languages are we talking about, Sue?
So in the Goldfields region, there's 12 endemic languages, but you'll hear anything up to about 18 languages being spoken. And they go from languages that are very damaged because of early contact with Europeans as they colonised, through to the desert languages, which are a lot more resilient because people have been left alone in those regions that traditionally the land wasn't wanted for anything. But now with the road going through and much more mining interests, those language groups are having a lot of external contact, and that's really impacting on the cultures and the languages. So, yeah, when this road's bitumised, there's going to be lots of benefits, but there's also going to be a lot of struggles and things we need to be observant of to make sure that the First Nations groups are not damaged, in particular the languages are not damaged.
When you say damaged by colonisation, what do you mean?
Well, an example in Norseman, the town of Norseman, all of the children from a certain generation were removed from the families and put onto a mission where they were not allowed to speak language. So within one generation, that language was wiped out. And there was fortunately 3 or 4 people who were a little bit older and they worked on the mission, but they kept their language going, and children and the family members would secretly whisper the language to each other. When we say language, it's not just words. We're saying a language is the mouth of a culture. The language speaks the culture. The language represents the culture. But language is your identity. The words you use, the language you speak is inextricably linked to your identity. It's an expression of your identity. So you can imagine if you lose your language, or you're forced not to speak your language, you're forced to lose your identity, you're forced to lose your mouth. And it has irreparable damage. It creates irreparable damage for many people.
Are you seeing that in the communities, that there is damage?
Absolutely. The forced loss of language, we call it linguicide. And it's something that we eventually will talk to the state and federal government about linguicide, the forced loss of language. You have forced loss of land, and then there's also people who didn't have their salaries paid to them. So these are being addressed through national programs like the redress program. But now you've still got people that were forced to lose their language. So they were forced to lose their identity, forced to lose the mouth of their culture. And many of those people are really struggle today. Many people desperately want to be in touch with their language and their culture, and their language is a way to express their culture and their identity. So we get people, particularly people of the stolen generation, that we maybe can teach them 20 words from their language, and you just watch the change in that person, the perception of who they are, their identity, their place in this world, their heritage and their connection. You just watch it wash through people. It's really quite powerful, the impact of that. And right through to the tourists, when we see tourists come and we might teach them 10 words, they just feel so excited that they're able to connect, they're able to actually speak the words of a language, and very ancient languages. I don't know what the words are to describe that, but it's a very deep, soul-fulfilling connection, when people can speak some of a language.
Is there opportunity through a greater understanding of local language to empower the local community in terms of setting up their own businesses?
Absolutely. There's a huge range of people. We've been working with a couple of families who have set up their own little tourist enterprises. One of them's the honey ant hunting ladies here in Kalgoorlie, and they're doing a rip-roaring trade. They're exhausted. They have to sort of say, look, we can't do any more this week, 2 or 3 trips a week. And they take people out honey ant hunting and cook kangaroos, and have the damper and the billy, and all sit around the fire afterwards and have a good old yarn. And they always do a welcoming language, and they share some language. And we take lots of groups to go out with those ladies. And, it's not just sharing culture, it's not just sharing language, but it's wider Australians and international tourists feeling that connection that they have desperately wanted to culture as well. They don't want to always feel I'm watching Aboriginal culture. They want to understand a bit more and feel part of it as well. The same as Aboriginal people want to be part of, wider Western culture as well. If we all live in the same country, we want to understand each other. So there's a lot of Aboriginal people, and particularly families, that want to start little sole trader tourist businesses. And so we're working with them on a long-term project to establish a Goldfields language and culture complex here in Kalgoorlie, which could be the start of a Kalgoorlie to Uluru Culture Trail, and it will go through all of the lands and pick up all the little soul businesses along the way.
Planning your next great Aussie adventure? Head to outbackway.org.au, your one-stop shop for everything you need to explore the Outback Way, Australia's longest shortcut. From handy travel guides, camping tips and itineraries to maps, merchandise and local stories, the Outback Way website has all the tools to make your road trip unforgettable. Whether you're a seasoned traveller or a first-time explorer, get inspired, get informed and get going. Visit outbackway.org.au today and start your journey across the heart of Australia. The Outback Way is Australia's great self-drive experience, full of adventure. But if self-drive isn't for you, Casey Australia Tours offers end-to-end accommodated safari coach tours. Join their experienced, knowledgeable guides and enjoy the Outback Way from the stress-free seat of a luxury Casey Tours coach. For more information or to book your tour, visit caseytours.com.au or call our West Australian office on 08 93 77 4400 today.
What about the artwork? Where are some good places to see Indigenous art, Aboriginal art?
Every community along the West Australian side has an art gallery, an art centre, and the art centres are there to assist artists to develop themselves and then to market their work. So absolutely, if you really want to support Aboriginal communities, purchase artwork, give it as gifts, value it. If somebody is interested, then support a particular artist, buy their work continuously and build up a collection. I know I have over the years, and I've got phenomenal artwork. And for many people who have passed away, it's just wonderful to keep supporting their story and to keep that artwork in really good condition to support those people. There's around about 150 artists and craftspeople. And when you buy that artwork, you're not just giving that one person money, but you're putting food on the table for the children and enabling the family to stay in the community and fuel in the car. For every dollar that you spend on Aboriginal artwork, it creates $4.10 worth of social outcome. So it's really a tremendous investment.
Sue Hanson, CEO of the Goldfields Aboriginal Language Centre. This is the Outback Way Podcast. I'm Robin McConchie. Sue Hanson says there is a direct connection between language and wellbeing.
Oh, absolutely. We talk about wellbeing or wellness, and even the federal government is starting to recognise now, and that's why they fund the language centres and other men's wellness programs and so on, that connection to your heritage language, connection to the mouth of your culture, it really fulfills people at a very high cognitive level. And it's a really critical part of underpinning people's mental health and their physical health. If you start to feel better about yourself, you find your identity, of course, it impacts on your mental health and so on. So it's huge. The linguistic world in Australia, we're very long, we've said these things are really important. Up until 1990, there were policies in place which allowed, for example, Aboriginal kids to learn in their own language and then learn English afterwards. And then both at a state and federal level, those policies were changed. So since 1990, we've seen a massive increase in mental health issues and physical health issues. So there are programs that are studying that at the moment and are showing a direct link between loss of language, loss of connection to culture, and a decognisation, a reduced cognition that, people are not able to think things through at a very high level. So there's some research being done at the moment that directly links youth's connection to their language with a reduction in suicide.
How do you think that by working with communities to strengthen language, the knowledge of language and the use of language, that you can give these people agency and so maybe embrace the opportunities that may be available with the ceiling of the road, the Outback Way?
So I think the key word you said is agency. And agency is the right to have a go at something and to fail, to learn from it and do it again, and to fail and learn from it and do it again, and to try over and over, and to be resilient, to develop resilience. But we have to also just first off acknowledge that English is the language of power in this country. It's the language of government. It's the language of the law. If you are not a competent English speaker and have a vast English repertoire, you have very limited power. But you can't say to somebody, you've got to stop speaking your language, speak only English, and then you'll understand. People need to be able to translate it back and forward in their head. And so having the opportunity to continue to learn your language to a very deep level, a very high cognitive level, and then the opportunity to be able to translate that through to English back and forward. So that's really critical for people so that they can develop the cognitive ability to be very strong at translating back and forward. Then they can start engaging in English, the language of power.
You've been working on a number of projects. Can we talk about some of those projects where you are actually putting some of the things that you're talking about into action?
Yeah. So we just started a new project it's been funded under the Closing the Gap federal program about men's wellness. And it's understood that under Closing the Gap that First Nations men's length of life and life opportunities are really quite minimalised in a whole lot of way. And the federal government have funded innovative men's wellness projects. So we've got a big truck and it's got a flash workshop on the back, like a mobile men's shed. And it's aimed at going out to communities. It rolls up. We've got 2 elders who are what we call workshop coordinators, pull out the shade, put down the fire pit, bring out the gear, and everybody sits around and makes spears and boomerangs and things that have got a deep connection and meaning to people. But of course, while everyone's sitting around doing that, they're yarning on. The guys are talking together. So providing a space, even if it's only for 5 days here and there, a space within that community for men to really connect and for again, what we call reduce that cognitive load. You know, when you sit and yarn with your friends, you feel better. And through that project, in each community, one of the community elders is also engaged, and he's actually the workshop person running the workshop. So our workshop coordinators, who are Aboriginal elders, they provide a scaffold for that elder to work with the young guys. And so that's a project we've just started. That's a 3-year project. We've got funded for 3 years, which is just amazing. But Aboriginal men that are involved in this project, we've got a fabulous Aboriginal men's reference group. They said this is the first time ever we're funded to sort out our own guys, to do things as we think is correct for our own guys in our own language, using our own culture. And they said so many times programs are brought in on the top, and our young guys just get overwhelmed with all these programs. So this one's from the bottom up, clearing a space so that men can get together and work with each other as they have for 20, 30, 50,000 years. They know what works for their mob. No one's ever supported them with that. And now we're supporting them. And you almost see their back straight and their shoulders going back. It's really quite phenomenal to see. And why shouldn't people be supported to do deeply cultural stuff? In my world, I can go to the ballet, I can go to the opera, I can go to the art gallery, I can go to the library, I can go to the museum. Millions upon millions of dollars are put into my cultural background. And prior to this, not a single cent to Aboriginal culture in the Goldfields region. So people are feeling very proud that they are being supported to work with their own men.
Yeah. So the small building blocks, giving people confidence in themselves or giving them agency through language. But you say this is generational change.
Yeah.
It's going to take 20, 30, 40 years.
Yeah. You can't learn a language to a very deep cognitive level in 2 or 3 years. And you really do need to learn that language from birth. The most critical learning period is birth to age 4. So if the aim is for children to be completely bilingual, they need really concerted input for those 2 languages, their First Nations language and English, from birth to age 4. So they need to be really serious programs. So when at birth to age 4, a child is born with language hardware, like you buy your computer, you've got hardware. And by age 4, that hardware starts shutting down. And all you can do after age 4 is install software. But then when you install that software, it has to be the right software. You can't get the wrong software and try and install it. So we need to have everything right. We need to have really serious input for the 2 languages, the First Nations language and English, from birth to age 4. And then we really need to have very serious input from age 4 to maybe age 20, when you start really closing down that language acquisition phase. You need to have the right kind of software for people, to install. Does that make some sense?
Can we speak with any optimism? Are you optimistic for the future?
Yeah, absolutely. And my optimism is with the grassroots organisations and people themselves. There's around 7,500 First Nations people in the Goldfields region. That's a very serious number of people. And these guys stay here. They don't move in and out like a lot of the other Australians do. And so programs come, programs go, but the people are still here. And one of our elders is constantly saying that to us. And he always says, don't start anything unless you start that you're looking at 20 years, and nothing will work under 20 years. But absolutely, people are, particularly Aboriginal people, are becoming more resilient, and being aware of being more resilient, are turning to culture and language to develop that resilience. People will not develop resilience if they just turn to Western culture and English.
When you talk about a resilience, do you mean, they can tough it out, or adapting to change?
It's all of that. That's what resilience is. Your resilience is about not losing yourself as change is happening as well. Yeah. Resilience is about bouncing back. You've got to have a rubber butt. You've got to fall down and bounce back up again. But you need to have a lot of strategies put away, tucked up in your brain to be able to bounce back again. Yeah. So you need to have strategies from your First Nations culture and also the Western English culture to be able to understand how to navigate things. So say, for example, if you have to go to Perth for an operation and you're in the Ngarrajara lands, you have to have a whole lot of skills and knowledge to be able to navigate going to Perth and having that operation happen and being successful. You have to be able to be resilient, because otherwise it won't be successful for you. So I see people, First Nations people, really developing or demanding agency now and grasping it. And we use all these terminologies with First Nations people. We talk about linguistic resilience. We talk about linguistic or language sovereignty. Language sovereignty is about, if you have a language, you own it. You have the right to say what happens with it. You have the right to pass it on. We talk about data sovereignty. If people are doing anything about you or studying you, you should have control of that data. You should be able to direct how that data is kept and how it's used. I mean, Aboriginal people are the most studied people in the world. Everybody and their dog has come and done a study, and people are over being studied. So one way around that is to say, whenever people come up with a project, they say, well, we want data sovereignty. If you're going to study us, then we want to own that data. And agency, as we're saying, agency applies everywhere. We should all have agency. We should all have that freedom to make decisions about our life. So agency is much stronger than self-determination. It's the right to fail, to learn from that, and to try again. Many First Nations folks, if a program is funded, it has to succeed, or you get into trouble with the funding body. So we now go, if we get offered funds, say at the Language Centre, we say, we will try our darndest to achieve the outcomes, but if it doesn't work, can we come back to you and say, this is why it didn't work? And if they say no, we say to them, you're actually a culturally unsafe funding body. Because you're not allowing us agency with this project.
Huge challenge ahead. But what do you love about your job?
I'm a bit of a nut about languages, so of course that's really fun. But I think all the folk we work with, we're so privileged in when you work with a language, you get to hear people's story in the language as they want to tell it. And you get to hear such rich, incredible stories. And that's very fulfilling for me. And watching people have the opportunity to record their stories. When I was saying language is the mouth of culture, sometimes I feel like I'm the dentist holding the recording device and allowing that person to speak, their culture. I'm the person helping them to their mouth to work and get it out there. And so that's very rewarding.
And they appreciate it, and people appreciate what you're doing there.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. There's so many wonderful people that we work with, and we work with a lot of elders, so we're very privileged to hear a lot of elder stories. A lot of them are really sad stories, really hard stories, but to keep those stories, and then when people pass away, to have that story safe for the family is really critical.
Sue Hanson, Chief Executive of the Goldfields Aboriginal Language Centre. You can find out more about the work at the centre by going to wangka.com.au. That's wangka.com.au. You can even sign up for a 2-hour Speak, Read and Write Aboriginal Languages course. And for more information about travelling on Australia's longest shortcut, go to outbackway.org.au. Thanks for your time. I'm Robin McConchie. The Outback Way podcast is all about your trip. We're trying to give you valuable information. And for more information on the Outback Way, head to outbackway.org.au. You can catch us on Facebook and Instagram. Enjoy your trip.